We start the day's other headlines in Austria, where officials say at least 10 people are dead after a gunman opened fire at a high school in the city of Graz before taking his own life. Authorities say at least 12 others were injured in the shooting in the country's second largest city. They say the 21-year-old suspect was a former student who never graduated, though details on a possible motive were not immediately available. Austria's chancellor said the country would observe 3 days of national mourning.
Today is a dark day in the history of our country. The killing spree at a school here in Graz is a national tragedy that shakes us to the core. There are no words to express the pain, the bewilderment, and the grief felt by the whole of Austria.
Austria has some of Europe's most liberal gun laws, due in part to the popularity of hunting and shooting for sport. Today's attack is believed to be the deadliest such incident in Austria's post-war history. Russia slammed Ukraine with a wave of drones and missiles for a second straight day, killing 3 people and injuring at least 13. Overnight, air raid alerts rang through the capital city of Kyiv. By morning, thick smoke was still rising over the skyline. Russian forces also struck the southern port city of Odessa, damaging this maternity hospital. All told, Moscow fired over 315 drones in the attack. In the meantime, both sides say they exchanged a new group of sick and wounded prisoners of war. It's the second swap in as many days as part of a broader exchange that was agreed to during talks last week in Turkey. In Gaza today, Palestinian eyewitnesses say Israeli troops once again fired towards crowds who were trying to get food from a distribution site. Hospital officials say at least 36 people were killed and hundreds more injured. The Israeli military says it fired warning shots at people it called suspects, saying they were advancing on Israeli troops. So far, at least 163 people have been killed in shootings near such aid sites. In the meantime, climate activist Greta Thunberg says she was deported from Israel for trying to bring aid into Gaza by boat. Speaking in Paris, she vowed to try again.
We were 12 peaceful volunteers sailing on a civilian ship carrying humanitarian aid on international waters. We did not break laws. We did nothing wrong.
This comes as the UK, Canada, and 3 other nations sanctioned a pair of far-right Israeli officials today for allegedly inciting extremist violence in the occupied West Bank. The measures against Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich include travel bans and asset freezes. It's the latest effort by Western nations to pressure Israel's leadership over its handling of West Bank violence and the war in Gaza. A new report from the United Nations says economic uncertainty is the top factor for what it calls a global fertility crisis. According to its State of the World Population report, 39% of respondents across 14 countries say financial pressures are the main reason for having fewer children than they'd like. Concerns about the future, like climate change or war, is the next largest factor, followed by job insecurity. Overall, nearly 20% of reproductive age adults say they won't be able to have the number of children they want. The World Bank is cutting its global growth forecast due to President Trump's trade wars. The lender now expects the world's economy to grow 2.3% this year, which is down from an earlier forecast of 2.7%. The bank's chief economist says the slower growth is, quote, due to a substantial rise in trade barriers and the pervasive effects of an uncertain global policy environment. The report comes as U.S. and Chinese officials held a second day of talks in London aimed at resolving their ongoing trade war. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the talks were productive and will continue as needed. And on Wall Street today, stocks inch closer to new records as traders keep an eye on those U.S.-China trade talks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added around 100 points on the day. The Nasdaq rose about 120 points. The S&P 500 also ended in positive territory. And K-pop supergroup BTS says it plans to reunite sometime this year after 2 more of its members completed their mandatory military service today. With a blast of saxophone and a bouquet of flowers, band members RM and V, as they're known, addressed the press and their adoring fans. They joined bandmates Jin and J-Hope, who were already discharged last year. All members are due to be out by the end of the month. In South Korea, all able-bodied men between 18 and 28 years old must perform military service. BTS stopped performing as a group in 2022, and fans are eagerly awaiting their return. Still to come on the NewsHour, the daughter of an American man killed in Syria speaks out about the search for his remains. And the Smithsonian's leadership responds to President Trump's efforts to fire one of its leaders.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein Studio at WETA in Washington, and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.